Hello, everyone. Today is February 5th, 2026. This is the Kubernetes Lord SIG meeting. Okay, so we will go over 1.36 planning spreadsheet. We just passed the PRR freeze deadline, which was Tuesday. So the next deadline is February 11th. That's the enhancement freeze. Let's look at the spreadsheet. The first one, CSI volume health. Is Hamang here?
Yeah, I'm here. So we have had several discussion about the volume health, and the fact is the problem is that we do not yet have a design on which everyone agrees, and it's the main blocker is that I think originally we thought of monitoring first, health monitoring first, design approach will take, which is easier to get done, but I think the pushback is that we want a remediation first design, like what will happen if the problem health is bad. And that's kind of challenging, and that's where we are currently blocked on. We don't know how the remediation first design, like we have some ideas, but we do not have agreement. I hope that we will be able to make some progress, but if we cannot, then I might just stop and drop this in future actually.
So I thought we were getting close to I don't know, something that we could prototype. I don't know if we can like get the KEP approved and everything by the deadline, but like I don't know if that matters as much as like demonstrating a workable model from end to end and then turning that into
So
the design.
I think that technically, like implementation point of view, it's not very hard. It's not like very
Yeah,
hard
there's a
capital
lot of
implement.
gotchas, and I feel like that's where our discussion has been. Is like, what exactly would you do here? What exactly would you do here?
So
Like
that, yeah,
answering those questions would be shaken out in like a prototype.
will it? I'm not sure because the all the prototype will do is implement using like the local host path driver that we have, and I don't think all the edge cases will be shaken out on that. If we cannot agree like how the remediation will look like I'm actually like my goal is to work on a design so and a prototype, but I like here's the thing, if it was a very complicated kip in terms of implementation and how it will make sense, but it's not very complicated kip in terms of like actual implementation point of view. It's a straightforward like controller implementation wherever it needs to be, but the problem is agreeing to a remediation that works for the most common of cases. And I'm not convinced that writing like a prototype using the host path provisioner or host path driver will get us anywhere closer.
No, I, I
And
I don't I don't think that the host pad the SP side of it, I think you're right. The host pad driver is not the right place to prototype. I think the thing that needs prototyping is the remediation side because I feel like that's where all the gotchas are. When you think through like what do you actually what exactly do you need to know and how exactly I mean you say it's not complicated, but there's a pretty long chain of plumbing from the SP through kubelet through an API object through to the scheduler to get the information you would need to do the do not schedule here remediation. I'm I don't know that long chain makes me nervous and it's
so
changed just in the last 2 weeks as we've been talking through the
so
design.
we have
Or
prior examples of like doing, for example, I don't want to spend all the time on this, but on this, but basically like I agree. It's not like super simple. It's not. It's like mid complexity. But we
yeah,
have done implementation which goes from kubelet to scheduler to KCM. Like for example, CSI node allocatable resources. So we have and it feeds into scheduler and things like that. So we have done all that kind of work. So it's not like okay, we are breaking any new ground here. Where the main thing is that we have to agree on is like okay, how do we report statuses like at and which is backward compatible, which allows us to be extend this in future, which allows operators to consume it. That key piece of infrastructure, that key piece of spec needs to be figured out. And I
Yes.
think,
So all I'm trying to say is I'm trying to be encouraging and say I think we're moving in the right direction. The fact that there's a deadline coming up that we may or may not hit, I don't think should
Oh, we already passed the
should
deadline
demotivate
because
us.
no, we passed deadline, right? Because already the PRR at that time you have to have something there. We passed that already. We had still keep the design, right? That's okay. Usually does not. It takes could take several releases sometimes to get the design nailed down and reach some milestone, right? So I mean, just because it passed deadline doesn't mean we can't work.
yeah, yeah. I
Now,
mean, yeah.
what about the taint approach? You were looking at that one, or is it something that you heard
I was trying
before?
to like the the current, so taints are like, I was talking to Jan actually this morning exactly, but
Mm,
taints are at the end of day scheduling mechanism. Like they are primarily enforced by scheduling. No execute, no schedule, but all the volume health remediation is not scheduling concerns. For example, you need to rebuild a
mm,
replica. That's not primarily a scheduling problem. And like you just take the pod and schedule it elsewhere, it's not going to solve it. And that is one. Second is like we thought like the taint themselves do not solve this backward compatibility issue we talked about, that exists with statuses. Like Jan said, what if for like we introduce a new enum value and the driver starts returning that instead of whatever it was running before, and then the remediation is broken. That taint doesn't solve that, because if we allow taint, then basically we are allowing drivers to return any key value, random strings actually, and driver, a new version of driver could return a different value that operator that does remediation is looking for, and it could be broken. So I mean, I had to write down my thoughts, but I'm just saying that the taints do not neatly fit into this problem domain. And
okay.
what will fit is what we talked about, and like kind of closer to it, but we do not have a, we were talking about if there is any other APIs that have been implemented in Kubernetes like that, which is an array of return values, which is like, okay, you could be data loss and you could be inaccessible. A volume could be an array, the
Mm,
health error could be an array of tons. I don't know if I didn't see any example in Kubernetes API which is like that. So that is probably our shortest, like our like one way of implementing this that will work. But yeah, we need to talk about it. I want to schedule a call. I will probably make some prototype changes, but like I said, it's a matter of like uh having enough forward looking like spec that can meet some needs. Like the prototype will not automatically iron out all the issues.
okay. Yeah, so let's please schedule another call, can
Yep.
discuss more. Okay, yeah, but thank you for driving this. Okay, so next one is change block tracking. Don't know if there is anyone recall, they're not here. So yeah, so the cap is out for review. Cap is being reviewed, and then there's also E2 test. It's being reviewed as well. So next one is voting group snapshot. So cap is out. Yang has already approved it from 630 side. Need PR review. And we're also adding more E2 tests, scale stress tests, and unit tests. Next one is CS sidecar all in one. Not sure if there's an update for this. This is, I think this, oh, is it for today? Okay. We need to evaluate whether node driver registrar is suitable to integrate into this project. Okay. Guess there is there is some discussion need to happen before we finalize on this. Let's add this one here. Oops, sorry. I don't know why this is, okay, I'll fix this later. Next one, mutable CSI node allocatable property. Is that here?
Yeah, so we have PR approval, and we also have the PR out in Kubernetes that promotes the feature to GA, and we just need Michelle's sign off before code freeze.
Okay. It has an API change, is that right?
Well, we're graduating it from beta to GA.
It has an API, right? And there's an entry API, right? It's an API change that we need to ask Michelle. Yeah. Okay. Next one, Cozy or Remote 2. We run Alpha 2. Blaine. I thought I saw Blaine.
Oops, sorry, I was struggling with the mute.
Okay.
Yeah, I think tomorrow we're still scheduled to have a review meeting with Michelle. So I'm assuming after that we will have a clearer idea of like what we need to revise on or if it's fully approved. I don't know if there's anything more to add, Xing.
Okay, thank you. Next one is integrate CSI volume limits with autoscaler. Come on.
Yeah, the cap is merged already, so we just we had to do some implementation.
Okay, and this
Yes.
the entry changes?
I've not implemented it yet, but the cap
okay.
includes that as well. So
But it requires entry changes, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And the cap mentions what entry changes is required and everything. So yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Next one is see the driver opt-in for service account token where secrets field. So the cap is already merged. There may be a cap for implementation too. I don't remember. I need to check. But cap itself is merged. Next one is remove Git repo entry plugin. This one also cap merged. I think there is a PR out. PR is also out. So out for review. And next one is a secure Linux labeling using mount options. Young.
I have a cap on PRR review.
Okay. Thank you. Next, system migration port box. So this one is to remove feature gate and entry plugin. So I think Calori submitted that it's already merged. PR merged just it was just a doc PR. Then next one is always owner reclaim policy. This is remove feature gate. Calori also submitted PR for this. There was a cap update that's merged, and then the code. I think it's just for some test failures, and he's being addressing. So PR is out for. Next one is snap topology. I'm not sure about the status. I don't know if Phil is here. Like a few weeks ago, he said he's going to submit a cap, but I have not seen that. I'm not sure if it's submitted yet. So it's okay. We can leave it here and see what happens to this. Next one is volume replication. So I added group here. Is anyone here to talk about this? Martin, Martin was there yesterday. We talked about this at the data crashing group. You want to give an update?
Yeah, as far as things go, we've officially kicked off the conversation. What we're effectively doing for anyone who wasn't present on the working group call yesterday is that we are proposing the new version of the CSI add-on spec, which have been developed as part of the upstream Ramen DR project. Working towards getting those adopted as full-scale Kubernetes CSI specs. We do have other partners who are interested and working with us on that. We expect that they'll be able to talk about that work publicly before too much longer. And beyond that, as we kind of work through any potential issues in the spec as currently proposed, we'll go through whatever process is needed to propose those to the community and benefit the community as a whole.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. I thought where did it go? Okay, yeah, sorry. All right. So next report, when PVC was the last used. So Jan or Germán, you're reviewing.
We got PR approval, but there are some minor issues in the gap that should be addressed.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think this one is we already marked this one as done. So maybe let me actually just cross this out so I don't have to cut this next time. Okay, so I think that's all we have in this spreadsheet. And let's see if there are any issues here. Okay. Okay, Blaine, you added this. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think Saad had mentioned just wanting me to come back and give an update after we had more offline discussion on this. So yeah, I just wanted to give a general update. So in Cozy, we identified like a corner case where if a user like creates and deletes a resource before it can be provisioned, then there's not like an ID to request like deletion or deprovisioning by. So after discussions with Ben and Hemant, and then the group here a couple weeks ago, the solution that we ended up proposing in Cozy is to use a get by name gRPC call that essentially tells the driver, hey, we don't know the like bucket ID here or the like account ID here, and we need you to give us that information if it exists or tell us if it doesn't exist. So yeah, there's also a GitHub issue where there's like more discussion and details if you want to take a look. And yeah, that's also a good place if you think that there could be some kind of issues with that design, like definitely bring it up.
Does this input the request, does this have to be exactly same as the original one? I mean, other than the name, like there are other parameters or only name is required for the uniqueness? I guess that's my question.
Yeah, so this is something that Ben brought up, but I think it's good to give all of the parameters used for creation. And I did like when I went through Cozy's design, I did vet the parameters just to make sure there wasn't anything totally unrelated. But I think all the parameters are relevant because we also don't know from the like right from Cozy's side what parameters are going to be helpful for the driver to heuristically determine if this thing exists or not. So I think giving it all of the parameters that it would have used to create the bucket is the best course of action from the driver view, where we don't know like what information is going to be important to them.
So I agree with you on the necessity, but like the result is gross, and it makes me like the endpoint less. Wouldn't it be a little cleaner to have like a two-phase provisioning process? But I think that was one of the options that was discussed on GitHub was instead of having create always pass in all the name and all the parameters, and you get back an ID after it's been created, is we could restructure it so that create, like, you call create with the name and all the parameters, and you get back an ID before it's created, and then you call another thing to actually create it. That would be a cleaner API. I mean, I'm not 100% convinced there aren't problems with that too, but like passing in a bunch of creation parameters to a get API just feels wrong in some sense, even though I agree, like from a technical perspective, it might be necessary to get the right answer in this case.
Yeah, so that's what the idempotency is about, right? It actually says that if you give all the same parameters, then SP should be treated as the same resource, right? So if you're only saying, if that's not the case, then how do we say that is idempotent if you?
Well, no, I mean, I don't think idempotency is a problem here. I think if we design a get that only takes the name and not the other parameters, there's not a guarantee that every SP can implement that. Excuse me. But then you're passing in creation parameters to what is a get API. I think it is possible to split create into two phases, where the first phase just gives you the ID, and then the second phase actually does the work of creating it, so that if you want to get off the bus, in the middle, you can say, oh wait, if it's going to fail forever, I just want to give up and delete it and go away because I changed my mind. Right. That's the problem we're trying to solve.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I do agree with you. I think I think requesting the ID beforehand like avoids right. We can make sure to persist information so that this race condition isn't encounterable.
But we wouldn't. I mean, I don't think of that as a request. I think of it as like a create ID first and then complete creation second. They would both be create APIs,
right?
Conceptually, because you would never call this after create had succeeded if you just wanted to get the ID. Right. From that point, you have the ID. So
yeah, so this could be that I took the wrong takeaway from the discussion there. So I can go back and read through that. My understanding was that issuing a like sort of create ID request might not be achievable by some backends who don't. Right, I don't think this is definitely not true for like AWS. I don't think, or for S3, I should say. I think also DCS and Azure, like you can tell it the name of a bucket beforehand, but right, there could conceivably be backends where the ID isn't known until after creation time.
Right. So if you had a two-phase creation in the API, an SP could choose to do all of the work in the first phase, as long as like they know that it's not going to fail and that they can return the ID reliably. And then the second phase could be a no-op, right? That is an option. But for drivers that could end up in a failure loop, they have the opportunity to return the ID early and then do the rest of the work after the ID has been given to the callers, so that the caller can bail out. So it gives the SP more flexibility, but we would explicitly say, like, this is create phase one, this is create phase two, and I don't know what you call them, but the idea would be you call one then the other.
But if they can only do one phase, then it's the same problem as before, right? It takes a long time. Then,
well, I mean, we faced this with snapshots in CSI, right?
Yeah, I know.
Where
I'm just saying
snapshot
that
creation is slow, and so we specifically put a Boolean in that says you can return success and say it's not ready to use. Like, we did not do that with volumes. We did not do that with buckets, but like you could do it.
Yeah,
here.
Because in that case, I think naturally it has two phases. It first is cut snapshot, the other phase is to upload, right? It naturally is already.
But that's what we're getting at here is like something about the volume creation is taking a long time and it's timing out. So like you're already back in the boat of volume creation is not fast for some reason. You need to return something to the caller so they can abort. And we're just not doing that today.
Yeah, but
and
now
so like
if
that's how you fix it.
I know, but if you're saying this two phase in like many vendors, they don't have that, then then they still
then they
ended
just
up with the
return.
same
So
problem,
the same
right?
is true with snapshots, right? You create a snapshot and you can return immediately. It's ready to use, right? Turn a two-phase operation into a one-phase operation
But the
by
two phase,
doing
that's
both the
only,
phases.
oh no, that's only for the snapshot that needs to be uploaded someplace else. Normally it's just one phase. It
Who
return to
knows
two
what
right
who
away.
knows what the SP is doing? The SP could be doing all kinds of expensive things
But
in
that's
the
wrong, right?
background.
That is wrong. They should be it's supposed to be cut. We clearly said that in the spec.
Yeah. It has to. But I'm just saying,
If you
like,
don't have snapshot, that's not supposed
it's
to
all
return that
opaque. It's
ID.
all opaque, and the same happens on the volume side, right? Volume creation. I think when CSI was originally conceived of 7-8 years ago, it was assumed that this is going to be a quick operation. You call volume create, it's done. You get back your volume ID. You never have a problem. And now we have drivers for whatever reason that take more than 1 second to do it, and you have timeouts, and people are like, I want to bail out. Like we just never conceived of that, I think, when create volume was originally designed. So maybe we need to go back and say, for some reason, create volume can take time, and we better return something early and then let it finish later. Same thing with create bucket.
Actually, one thing I want to bring up is actually now with create volume, we're seeing a lot of issues where we end up leaking the volume because it takes a long time, but the user decides to cancel. But because we didn't
That's
persist any information about the ID, we don't know that we need to clean it up.
that's exactly the problem we're trying to solve here,
Yeah.
is to get the ID earlier, so that if the user does say I give up, you know what to delete even before create has fully succeeded. So we're trying to solve the leaking volume problem. And on the bucket side with Cozy, similarly.
Yeah, I mean, definitely from my own logic, what you're saying here makes sense. I would, I think, prefer, right, like conceptually and like via implementation, I think it's much easier to say, hey, give me an ID for this. I think that nearly all object storage vendors are going to be able to say, okay, here's just some ID that's built based on, right, deterministic rules, and that'll be very easy. And I can provide some information to make sure the process is clear for any drivers where that's not the case, or at least like they can understand that there's more to think about and they can reach out to like Cozy devs, if that makes sense.
Are you familiar with the way the snapshot API looks? Where create returns an ID and a Boolean?
No, I haven't looked at that intimately, but I know where to find all that information.
That's the
I think it's worth considering that style of API where create returns the ID and a Boolean, and if the Boolean is false, you have to keep calling it until it's true.
Yeah,
unless you give up.
But I think they API reviewer does not like that, right? That's another conversation. They do not.
I mean, it's kind of gross, but I think that's less gross than some of these
actually
other options.
rejected. I think initially, Cozy API already has that, follow the snapshot model, but then after API review, the Boolean got rejected because API, I think, there are concerns with the Boolean. So
well, when they see the alternatives that would work, I think they would like them even less.
I think, I have never seen people complain about snapshot, but because I think we need that for this particular use case. This two-phase thing, yeah. You cut the snapshot first and then upload takes a long time, right? So I'm not sure if Cozy, I guess, is different. You create bucket probably takes time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely open to opinions here. So far in Cozy's RPC spec, we assume that we're going to call the driver, tell it to create something, whether it's a bucket or like a user, and then get that back within a short amount of time. In my experience with like S3 APIs and stuff, like within, a few seconds in the worst case, like the thing exists or you have some error about it. But we could for like creation, for bootstrapping, have a Boolean return from the driver that says, hey, I'm still working on this, so just come back later. I don't think that would be hard to add or to like process, right? Like everything internally should also be idempotent, but it is one additional complexity that's not currently in the code.
So in that case, is the ID actually generated by the driver, not by the like S3 or not by the real object storage, the ID that you can return quickly, or is it actually already the bucket ID?
I think for most drivers, I mean, time will tell, but I think most drivers will generate an ID first, and then they will provision the bucket.
Okay, so they kind of have their internal database or something. They kind of keep track of that. They know that this ID is corresponding to a bucket ID, right?
I mean they're required to. That's what the spec says. So yeah, you don't know what's going on behind most drivers, right? But they're somehow or other they have to be stateful enough that they can remember what was associated with that ID when you pass it back in.
Yeah, so I think this is like there's a little bit of a difference between what I've observed from like block and file storage versus like object storage. So, right, like being familiar with Ceph, I know that, right, if I like provision myself like a block volume, like I don't know the ID of that volume until after it's been created. But with object storage, like what we've done with the like cozy prototype is just to say, right, the buckets all have a name or an ID, right? The buckets all have an ID, and you can say, hey, create a bucket with this ID beforehand. So
okay.
I think most object protocols have more of an ability to like predetermine the ID in a way that like traditional block and file doesn't, right? I think there are more times where traditional block and file like won't have that ID until afterwards. I think most, if not all, object storage providers will be able to like predetermine an ID just based on like deterministic rules, right? Like in Rook, I think we just prepend a string to like the like requested name that we get.
Well, and crucially, like if they can't, then they can just do all of the work in the first phase, and it's no worse than it is today.
Right. Yeah, and right, like if I were a driver implementer who didn't know the ID until afterwards, and I got this request for an ID, I would probably keep like a database, or even if it's just a CSV file or something that is saying, okay, I got this ID, I'm going to translate this to this thing, and then use that to like redetermine state or something. So, but yeah, that just kind of like leaves it up to the driver to like just make sure you do the right thing.
Okay. Yeah, then looks like then we have a solution then. The two-phase thing seems.
Well, if we can get it past the API reviewers, like
I mean, but maybe even with the conditions, it's the same thing actually, right? So it's they don't have a like Boolean, they just have some conditions. There's this final.
I mean, they may have a way to make it look prettier, but like fundamentally, that it's going to be
the same
some
thing,
two-phase create.
Right. So you got an ID first, and then you keep checking the status until it's finally what is status ready or bound or whatever there, right? So
yeah, I think this discussion also doesn't necessarily apply directly to the like cube resource APIs. Like we don't have to track a Boolean in the status, even if there's like a Boolean like for the RPCs.
Well, the other half of this bug on the volume side is that like we don't create the PV object until after we have an ID, and that's one of the sources of volume leaks. And so if we had a way to get the ID earlier, we could choose to do something on the volume side to solve the other half of the leak problem. Right now, we just don't have an option.
Then I think Sunny has a proposal, right? I think it's probably they are not started working on that yet, but she has a proposal for having that create that PV early. But for Cozy, since it's a new project, I think you are already creating the bucket early before you provision it. So that's not a problem for Cozy, I think. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben. Yeah, thanks for the discussion and helping come to a conclusion. This is really helpful.
All right. Are there anything else we want to discuss today? Is this the same one? Oh, okay. Oh yeah, thank you for updating this. Are there anything else? If not, that's it for today. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.